You all ready? Christmas?
Are we ready to go ahead, everyone?
You? Pretty much.
This is really weird. John Hagee might be used to this, but I'm certainly not. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be with you virtually today and to be joined by the Honourable Andrew Furey, Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, the Honourable Seamus O'Regan, Minister of Natural Resources and MP for St. John's South Mount Pearl, and Stephen Edwards, President of Hibernia Management and Development Company. Over the past number of months, our government has been working tirelessly to assist the oil and gas industry of our province to overcome the impact faced as a result of the pandemic, fall in oil prices. Our industry is obviously facing various serious impacts, and we're committed to ensuring that our industry can be successful in maximizing the benefits to the people of the province. We've been working with industry and our partners to ensure we explore every possible option to preserve and accelerate the economy of our province through offshore investment. We've established the Oil and Gas Recovery Task Force to identify immediate actions required to sustain the industry and provide suggestions for how best to utilize the $320 million of funding from the federal government. Just a few weeks ago that we announced the first project, which was support for the West White Road project, and today we are here to talk about the second project, which will be supported under funds. And to tell you a bit more, I would like to invite the Premier to say a few words.
Well, thank you, Minister Parsons. First of all, before we do this announcement, I'd like to announce that the Christmas tree is back up outside of Confederation Building. So, like the winds that can't keep us down as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, the Christmas tree is back up for everyone to enjoy. Good morning, everyone. It's my absolute pleasure to announce the second proposal to be funded under the Oil and Gas Industry Recovery Assistance Fund. We all know 2020 has been a challenging year indeed. Our oil and gas industry has gone through much turmoil as a result of the global pandemic and the collapse of oil prices. The women and men working in the industry and their families are acutely aware of the negative impact this year has brought. Our government is as well aware of that. As we work to stabilize jobs and secure the future of the oil and gas industry in our province, those people and their families are top of our minds, particularly during this holiday season. I'm pleased to announce another outcome of this work here today. This announcement is made possible through the $320 million Oil and Gas Industry Recovery Fund. The fund is to support direct and indirect employment in our oil and gas sector. It also is to support activities that generate environmental benefits and co-benefits. I want to thank my colleague and friend, Minister O'Regan, for his continued partnership with our government on this important industry. And a big thanks to Minister Parsons for his commitment to this important file. It's one of several that Minister Parsons has on his plate, and he's leading this new portfolio, and the development of each one shows his tenacity and determination to get things done for the future of Newfoundland and Labrador. And I'd like to thank Dave Mercer of Unifor for continuing to voice his perspective, the perspective of his membership throughout these efforts to support our oil and gas workers in our province. As a part of this funding, the Hibernia Management and Development Company, or HMDC, will receive $38 million. That's approximately 40% of the total project cost. This is to restart well work, perform drill rig upgrades, and invest in new technology at the Hibernia platform. It will result in more than 300,000 hours of work over an estimated 18 months. This project will create and maintain jobs in the near term for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. And it will create opportunities for a number of local supply and service companies. The investment will result in 77 additional full-time equivalent positions and maintain employment for 44 full-time equivalent positions in 2021. In 2022, it will result in 27 full-time position equivalents. That's a total of 148 full-time equivalent positions in this province. The project has 3 different exciting scopes of work, including developing expertise for the offshore of Newfoundland and Labrador. Our Oil and Gas Industry Recovery Task Force worked diligently to identify eligibility parameters and priority criteria to ensure the funds are utilized in the most effective way for Newfoundland and Labrador. Their recommendations helped government develop a comprehensive evaluation and approval process, one that ensures funded projects maximize employment for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians and support the recovery of our province's oil and gas industry. With this project, the well work and rig upgrade work include digital technology advancements that will help reduce greenhouse gas intensity at Hibernia. Supporting our offshore oil and gas industry ensures some of the lowest emission production in the world can continue to be a part of the global energy mix. Our province is uniquely positioned with low emission energy resources and a wealth of smart, creative people working hard to maximize those resources. We will continually work for the benefit of our province, of our oil and gas industry, and of our people to help get our economy back on its feet and our residents back to work. I think I speak for all of us here today when I say that we look forward to HMDC getting started on this important work and more announcements to come in the coming weeks that will help drive the recovery of our oil and gas industry. Newfoundland and Labrador, we will have a bright, prosperous future, one that involves oil and gas. And I want to thank everyone for working hard towards that reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier. It is very positive news that HMDC are receiving support today under the fund, and the jobs that this funding will support will obviously help many families across our province and will provide a boost to our economy. To echo some of the comments of the Premier, I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the dedicated staff in IEC, who I can tell you have been working tirelessly day and night to make sure that today's announcement went forward. So I'd like to thank all them now. Obviously, as well, that today's announcement would not be possible without the support of our federal colleagues. And on that note, I'd now like to invite Minister O'Regan to say a few words.
Thank you, Minister Parsons, Premier Stephen, and to Karen and Bill and all the other members of the province's task force. You know, I told the story so many times lately that some of you may already be reaching for the mute button on your speakers, but it is worth repeating as a measure of who we are as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. It happened last spring when ExxonMobil Canada's president, Peter Lardon, told me that our offshore jurisdiction is the harshest environment in which ExxonMobil operates in the world. And yet we managed to do it. Better still, we've gotten really good at it. And that's what we do in our province. We don't shrink from things, we get the job done. I have been reminded of that a lot during this challenging year, the way that we've pulled together in big ways and in small ways. Whether it's something as simple as realizing you forgot your mask and running back to the car before you go into Shoppers, or something as momentous as the sight of Nurse Foley Vick receiving our province's first vaccination last week. Newfoundland and Labrador is a place that always, despite our economic hardship and the too often difficult job of keeping the wolves from the door, always has a cup of sugar or a few logs from our cord of wood for a neighbor. This is a place that, despite the wind and the rain and the cold, always keeps a warm house and an even warmer heart. We're still facing a hard winter, but spring is coming. The vaccines are here, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. Today's announcement, on the heels of our announcement on West White Rose earlier this month, is part of that growing light. It's part of our collective will to meet every challenge, including the one more than 300 kilometers out to sea, where we've created a resilient offshore industry out of nothing but an idea, and oil, and a lot of water. ExxonMobil and its partners have been there from the start, been there through Hibernia and Hebron, so that today we've got a proud and mature offshore industry, accounting for 30% of our province's GDP, 13% of labor compensation, 10% of our employment over the years. But our offshore, like oil-producing jurisdictions everywhere, has been suffering from the double whammy of a global pandemic and a global price war. Depressed oil prices have magnified the market instability that impacts our businesses, our communities, our families. To the men and women and families that are part of this industry and part of this sector, I say, we see you and we are working hard for you because we believe in you. We believe in this industry, and we believe in its future. All of this brings us to the matter of hand, Back in September, I announced $320 million to ensure a sustainable and prosperous future for our offshore. $320 million to do two things: support our workers and lower emissions. $320 million for safety improvements, maintenance and upgrades of existing facilities, research and development, environmental services, and clean tech. $320 million on top of the $75 million I announced in April for our offshore as part of the National Emissions Reduction Fund. That is a total of $400 million from the Government of Canada to directly support the offshore in this turbulent time. Today's news from the Premier about how more of these resources will be spent is welcome news. Welcome news as the holidays approach. So, today's announcement, with an initial contribution of up to $38 million to restart well work, to complete rig upgrades, to invest in new technologies that lower emissions, and create and maintain more than 120 jobs, well, it's evidence of that belief, of the faith that we have in the future. It's the same reason almost 2 years ago that the Government of Canada announced $2.5 billion from the Atlantic Accord Review Agreement, $2.5 billion in new money, $2 billion over the next 10 years to the province as the principal beneficiary of our offshore. Faith in our province's future is also why just last week the Prime Minister announced federal debt relief for Muskrat Falls and our province's difficult financial situation to keep us moving forward. We're committed to creating greater investor certainty and to joint management between the province and the federal government, and we continue to demonstrate that commitment with action. At the end of May, we drove down the time that it takes for an environmental assessment for an exploratory well from 900 days to as little as 90 days, putting us right on par with our competitors, Norway and the UK, and without sacrificing 1 ounce of environmental integrity. That's important because while COVID-19 is the largest immediate threat to our economic recovery and prosperity as a province, longer term, it's climate change. Earlier this month, you saw the launch of our strengthened and ambitious climate plan, a plan that includes $15 billion and 64 measures that will help us meet and exceed our Paris climate targets. Climate change is real, and people are already adapting to it. Here in St. John's and right across the province, municipalities are adapting to it now. Governments are adapting to it now. Investors and markets are adapting to it now. Across resource sectors around the globe, we see that investors are reassessing what they value and how they value it. Markets are moving towards industry players taking action to lower emissions and make their operations more sustainable. Canadian industry understands the direction that markets are moving in, and they're already taking action to make sure that our natural resource sectors are more sustainable than ever. They know they got to follow the money. The product that we have sitting off of our coast is a desirable product. It is a sweet, light crude at tidewater with very low emissions per barrel. One that will be needed for decades to come if we keep improving the quality, if we keep lowering emissions, if we keep driving its competitiveness. It's a tall order, and it means that governments must work together. People want their governments to work together, especially these days, and we are, every single day. We said we would be there to support workers in our offshore, and we are delivering, because we are proud of our offshore. We are proud of its workers and proud to support its future. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And certainly we share the Government of Canada's goals of environmental protection and reducing carbon emissions for our oil and gas sector. And obviously, we continue to look forward to our collaboration on this. Working together has certainly been one of our strengths during these challenging times. Now, to provide you with some more details, the second project funded under this recovery fund, I'd like to invite Stephen Edwards, President of HMDC, to say a few words.
Well, thank you, Premier Furey, Minister O'Regan, and Minister Parsons. This announcement certainly illustrates your support for our industry and our workers. The Hibernia project truly is a Newfoundland and Labrador success story. It was the foundation for this province's oil industry and has provided billions of dollars in taxes and royalties. I first had an opportunity to support the project when I was in high school on a work placement at a local engineering firm. That experience inspired me to study engineering at Memorial and to pursue a career in our province's oil industry. I could see then, just as I can see now, just how important Hibernia has been to our economy. And yet, for all of its strengths, Hibernia is not immune to the global challenges and market conditions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on demand, low oil prices, and the need for cash preservation. Like other operators and companies in this region, we reduced spending in 2020, and this has impacted our workforce complement and our drilling activities. This year, a number of scopes were put on hold. But this government funding, just announced by the Premier, will allow us to increase our activity in 2021 and 2022. Now, as mentioned, Hibernia truly is a made right here in Newfoundland and Labrador success story. Most of our workforce is made up of proud Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and as a result, this announcement will primarily impact local workers and their families and their communities throughout the province. Hibernia workers live all over Newfoundland and Labrador, and their 3-week on, 3-week off rotation gives them the freedom to call any part of our province home. They are the glue in some of our small communities, coaching in their off time, volunteering as firefighters, helping their communities both financially and physically. This funding announced today will assist us in maintaining employment that would otherwise go away, and also to create additional jobs throughout 21 and 22. Most importantly, it will help us to maintain momentum at Hibernia, providing more certainty for the project and its future. The $38 million investment from government will enable Hibernia to introduce more than $93 million of new activity and spending. We are looking to the Industry Recovery Fund to support us in doing the following: restoring well work activity, resulting in immediate jobs, increased production, and royalties for the province. Undertaking drill rig upgrades to unlock resources currently not reachable, and potentially enabling 10+ more years of future drilling. And to implement offshore wireless connectivity through 5G, LTE, and pervasive Wi-Fi to become a global leader in offshore technology. These projects will support approximately 148 full-time equivalent positions for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians over the next 18 months, creating approximately 300,000 hours of activity. This investment will result in millions of dollars in royalties starting as early as 2021. Our joint investment in well work, drill rig upgrades, and digital technology will help get us through this current downturn and position Hibernia for success as we emerge from it. In addition, HMDC has submitted a proposal for further scopes of work, and we look forward to working with the government as they evaluate that proposal. On behalf of our Hibernia workforce, I would like to thank you, Premier Furey, Minister O'Regan, and Minister Parsons. I believe the Hibernia project has decades of production left, and this investment will increase the likelihood that we will still be here operating this project and supporting the economy of this province for 20 or 30 or even 40 more years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today. This is a positive announcement. It means jobs, it means setting up opportunities, it means a boost to our economy. And again, we continue to look forward to more announcements like this in the weeks forward. And on that note now, I'd like to invite the media to ask some questions.
Thank you, Minister Parsons. For the benefit of our speakers, we have 6 reporters registered for today's call. We will pass as a list by order of registration, so everyone is able to ask 2 questions, and if time permits, there will be an opportunity for 1 additional question from each reporter. I ask reporters that you keep your phones on mute until called upon. Up first is Alex Bill from All Newfoundland and Labrador. Please go ahead.
Hi, my question's for Stephen. Can you provide some more details on the drill rig upgrades? Specifically, does it include the installation of the electric cranes? And when you say areas not reachable, are you talking about the Ben Nevis Avalon Reservoir?
Yeah, so the funding that that's announced today really enables us to do two things related to drilling. And that's to restart well work, which will result in immediate jobs, increased production, and increased royalties. And also from a drill rig perspective, there's rig upgrades that will unlock resources that are not currently reachable and enable 10 plus more years of drilling. Now, when it comes to the crane, that's something that we're still looking at and evaluating, but we're currently under commercial discussions there, so couldn't comment any more on that at this time. But really, this is about a great news story. We've got 300,000 hours of additional work activity on Hibernia. It's been a tough year. We've had to pause activity, and this really enables $93 million of activity to come and at Hibernia and create opportunities for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians and position Hibernia for the future.
Go ahead, Alex. You have a next question.
Just to follow that one. Just to follow that one on the note about the areas currently not reachable. Can you explain what that means, and if they're talking about different areas of the reservoir?
Yeah, there are currently a number of areas that are in the Hibernia production license or unit that we currently can't reach with the existing technology that we have on the platform and the rig that we currently have. So we're going to update and upgrade specific pieces of equipment, and that will enable us to be able to reach a variety of different areas of the resource. So we're really excited about that, and then to be able to do that and do it in a way that creates additional 300,000 hours for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.
Thank you. The next question is from Brian Medor with the OCM.
Hi, thanks. Just wondering if you can put it into perspective for me, say, last summer before the layoffs of last June, May, June, and say next summer around the same time, May, June roughly, what would be the complement on the rig out there, say, last May, June, and next May, June? What's the difference in terms of numbers?
Yeah, so this has certainly been a tough, very tough year. We've had to take some tough decisions. Between where we were earlier this year and now we're about halfway down from where we were. So what this will do is really it's going to enable 300,000 hours worth of activity on the facility. The numbers next year will they'll start as early as January. I think about something like well work, which will result in immediate jobs. But they'll continue to ramp up through the course of the year, and it's a great news story for Newfoundland and Labrador.
Also, the $40 million from the offshore oil fund, and you're kicking around the figure $93 million. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. So the Premier just announced $38 million in funding. The government will provide that share. The total project cost was $93 million. So we'll be contributing $56 million on top of that, the Hibernia co-ventures. And so we're really excited that that's going to bring to us, the new well work activity, the drill rigs, and also for digital upgrades on the facility to make us a global leader in offshore technology.
Thank you. The next question is from Andrew Robinson with the Telegram.
Good morning. I was wondering, Stephen, if you could talk some about what your general expectations are for the sector in 2021. Do you see any sort of signs that, beyond what's being announced today for Hibernia, any industry trends that you think may at all help your sector?
This year has been a really tough year, and the global pandemic and everything that we've been through, that's led us to making some tough decisions. The way I think about this funding is it's a bridge, it's a transition, and we're using that investment to be able to invest in those key activities that I mentioned. So that we can get through this downturn and position Hibernia for recovery and to be successful for decades to come. And that's what we're looking forward to with this announcement.
I'm wondering if you can. You mentioned that there is another proposal currently that you brought forward that's being looked at. I'm wondering if you can hint at all on what that might entail in terms of whether it would be something that would, similar to what's announced today, increase any sort of technological capabilities, enhance your abilities to do work that can't be done at the moment, impact on workforce. Anything at all you can mention with regards to that?
I think right now we do have a second proposal in with the government, and we really look forward to working with them as they evaluate that proposal. I think at this stage, to be honest, it would be better. I'd rather not comment on that at the time and let that go through the appropriate review and evaluation process.
Thank you, Andrew. The next question is from Terry Roberts with CBC. Please go ahead.
Hi, Stephen. Terry. I was just wondering, looking at your quarterly reports about job numbers on Hibernia, it looks like you're down significantly from the first quarter to the third quarter. Can you sort of put it in perspective for us how that happened? What you had to do to drop those numbers and how you were able to keep producing oil even though so many fewer jobs were being created by Hibernia?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I mean, it's been an incredibly tough year, and we've had to make some tough decisions. We're able to, a lot of the work on the platform is related to projects work and activities and new opportunity. And so effectively what we've done is we've taken decisions to pause that activity. What this funding that the Premier's just announced today allows us to do is to be able to bring back, some of the work that we have had to pause, particularly on well work, investing in our drill rig and upgrades and on the digital infrastructure. And so those are the sorts of things that we'll be working forward with.
Okay, for my second question for the Premier or for the Minister Parsons, I guess, can you tell us your first announcement earlier in December, have you been given any updates on how, what kind of benefits that money has accrued so far for the West White Rose project?
Minister, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I can jump in there. Again, I think when we announced that one, and part of the issue with that was the developments that came a day later that were unknown to all the players. Right now, I mean, that one still continues to be implemented. There's 331 positions that came with it. Nothing new or different than what we announced that day.
Thank you, Minister. Next question is for Sarah Smelly with Canadian Press.
Hi there. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Jan?
Okay, cool. So what would have happened without this funding? Was there consideration of early abandonment? Like, where were you guys with this?
Is that one for me?
I would assume that's for you.
Yeah,
Abandonment and
sorry.
Hibernia don't go in any sentence that I'm putting together.
No, I mean, I think what this is about new activity that we've been talking about this morning. This is about restarting well work and the drill rig upgrades and digital technology. We would have continued to produce, but those activities would not be in scope. So that new activity is what's been unlocked today by the province's announcement.
Okay, and can you tell how many people have been laid off? Like, how many people are out there working right now, and how many people have been laid off over this year from the Hibernia project?
Yeah, I don't have those numbers right in front of me right now, but I think the impact of COVID has been significant on many, many industries. The oil and gas industry, Hibernia, is no different. And so, the opportunity to bring 300,000 hours of activity back to Hibernia is certainly something that's a great, announcement to have coming into the Christmas holiday, and something that we're really excited about and positioning Hibernia for the future.
Thank you, Sarah. The next question is from Mike Connors with NTV News.
The last announcement for West White Rose, the cost split was 50-50 between the province and the project partners. This one appears to be more 60-40. Why the change in cost sharing on this one?
That was the proposal that was evaluated. As we suggested in the first announcement, we're trying to abide as best we can by the 50-50 split, as was recommended by the task force. But in this case, this was the proposal that was placed forward, and certainly one that we're willing to work within, as it's within the parameters as suggested by the experts on the panel.
And after the last announcement, has been alluded to already, there were more layoffs, inadvertently announced immediately afterward. I'm just wondering, from Hibernia's point of view, are there any more job cuts planned in other areas of the project, despite this new money coming in?
No, we're not aware of any pending layoffs or impending layoffs. So, I mean, what we're really excited about is the additional 300,000 hours of activity that will be created for Newfoundland and Labrador.
Thank you, everyone. We went through the first round of questions, and now we have time for another round of single questions. Up first is Alex with All Newfoundland and Labrador. Please go ahead.
Just a process question. The Husky announcement was made as a full press conference. This is teleconference. It hasn't been very long in between the two. Is there a specific reason for the change?
No, I mean, we were working hard on this announcement. We were working collaboratively with Hibernia and the Development Corporation and Exxon to ensure that we were progressing this announcement and this agreement in a prudent and responsible fashion. And it just happened to land on Tibbs Eve, and we felt that this was important for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians to hear this exciting news before heading into the holiday season. So that's really the only reason for the change of venue. We thought that this was important for people to hear, even though we were on a tighter timeline and recognizing the restrictions surrounding COVID and, frankly, people's holiday schedules. Nothing more or less than that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. The next question is from Brian Medor with BOCM.
Minister Parsons, just wondering if you have any idea how many proposals are before the committee as we speak, and roughly when we'll get to the end of them, when that $320 million will have been divvied up.
Well, there's at least 2 to 3 more that are currently being worked on. The funding itself, I think, still has another year of eligibility, so there's no rush in the sense that we have to get it out the door. The only rush is one that's self-imposed by us, because we want to, help the industry. We want to help create jobs, keep people working. But we're working through them. It's not a simple process. Obviously, there's a lot of due diligence that has to go into this to make sure that we get best value, and again, to work with the different operators. So I don't think you'll see any more in 2020, but we're right on track to see more in early 2021.
And maybe, Brian, I'll jump in there too, and just to add to the minister's point, just the makeup of the task force. I mean, when we came in with the $320 million, I was determined that those closest to the ground be the ones to make the decisions on how this money be spent to achieve our 2 goals, which is to support workers and to make the industry more competitive by lowering emissions. And the task force work with Bill and Karen at the helm has involved industry, it has involved the unions and the workers, and it has involved all levels of government working together to establish those priorities. And they've, I think, come up with some great proposals, and looking forward to the rest of them. But the process here is really important, because I think this means we will make the best decisions and the best use of the money by dealing with people who know the industry best.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from Andrew Robinson with the Telegram.
Brian Medore asked the question that I was going to ask, so I'm all good, thanks.
Thank you. Up next is Terry Roberts with the CBC.
Yeah, a question for Mr. Edwards. You're a major partner in the Terra Nova oil field as well, and we all know that Terra Nova FPSO is docked now in Bull Arm with an uncertain future. So I'm not sure if you can comment on this, but what's your company's outlook as it relates to the uncertainty surrounding Terra Nova?
So today, my role is as president of Hibernia Management. So I don't have a stake in the Terra Nova field, so couldn't comment on that. But I would, I guess I would like to say just that, this is just a great news story for Newfoundland and Labrador and for Hibernia. I think if you think about what Hibernia has been able to contribute, since 1997, the amount of economic activity that's been created and the fact that we're going to be here for some time to come, and really that being enabled through this funding and getting us through this downturn, we're really excited about that, and we're really looking forward to 2021.
And let me just add on personal reflection too. I mean, 97. I was working for Premier Tobin at the time, and Hibernia was something that we saw as perhaps a 15, 20-year project. I can't remember what the timeline was at the time, and here we are. Hibernia is the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, with new technology, we are able to reach deposits that are further afield and use the infrastructure that we've built up around the Hibernia field. So it's nice to say at Christmas too, a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, and the announcement today extends the life. I think that's, it will move towards extension, not definitively, but certainly these are all activities that will continue to prolong, as Minister O'Regan says, the gift that keeps on giving at Christmas. So this is a positive day for Newfoundland and Labrador.
Thank you. The next question is from Sarah with Canadian Press.
Hi there. Mostly just a clarification. So we saw drilling suspended on Hibernia in the springtime. Will this ensure that drilling is restarted, and all of the work that was suspended, is that now going to go forward with this money?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, there's two really key things that are enabled related to drilling as a result of this announcement. The first is well work, which basically makes our new well, or the wells that we have, more productive. And that's going to lead to immediate jobs, increased royalties, increased production. The other is investing in our drill rig and upgrading it so that we can reach resources that we currently can't reach from the platform, and to enable 10 plus more years of future drilling. And that's what this is about.
Okay. But the suspended drilling is resuming
Sorry,
with this money, or no?
Follow-up.
Oh, sorry.
Apologies. Final question belongs to Mike Connors with NTV.
Hi. Just in terms of the two announcements that have happened, the first one was worth about 331 jobs. This one's worth, it seems, 140 jobs. Given that the money the government's announcing here represents 40 to 50% of the cost, the oil companies obviously had a block of money they were willing to spend anyway. Do you feel that this oil fund is actually getting the value for money in terms of what it's creating in the oil sector?
I do. I mean, I think that this is the exact intent of this money, is to look. We know that the quantum of money isn't going to be enough to change the external pressures on the oil on oil as a commodity in the marketplace globally. The purpose of this money is to ensure that Newfoundland and Labrador's offshore is well positioned when this commodity does return, and it is returning. And we need to make sure that we've continued to do projects like being done on the Hibernia platform to ensure that once the commodity does return and once the COVID-19 crisis is under control, that Newfoundland and Labrador's offshore is well positioned to capitalize on the valuable resource that we have, and not only just the oil, but the women and men who work in the field as we know that we have some of the best labor available around the world, and we need to make sure that they both are well positioned to capitalize on that in the global energy market.
Yeah, and Micah, I'll just jump in here too to say, you know, just reading about the number of offshore service companies that are working in Guyana. I mean, we have built up enough of an expertise here that it is exportable, based out of here and exportable. When we talk about looking after workers, I've made this point on several occasions, this is not a charitable endeavor. This is a wise investment on the part of governments. We lose good people too often in this province. We need to retain good people in a pivotal industry for this province. They are some of the best in the world at what they do on our offshore. We got to make sure that we retain them, that we improve their skills, because we need them. We need them not only to maintain the offshore and maintain its continued prosperity for the good of the people of this province and of Canada, but we need them to lower emissions. In the same way that they found a way to drill for oil and make money and make a prosperous livelihood for their families by being out in one of the harshest environments that ExxonMobil operates in, we need them, that same determination, that same hard work, that same ingenuity to lower emissions. And that will also make the industry more competitive for the future. It's a good investment.
Thank you, everyone.
Can I get one more question?
Sorry, can you please follow up with the department if you have any follow-up questions? The time for today's availability is over. Thank you for participating. Everyone have a good day.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thanks.